Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Justin D'Souza. I'm a quantitative specialist here at Statistics Solutions. During today's webinar, we are going to review how to conduct and interpret ANOVAs. So I'll go through how to set up ANOVAs in SPSS, and we'll go through some hypothetical interpretations. If you have any questions, you can type them into the chat box or the Q&A box. And at the end of the webinar today, we will do a Q&A session. And my colleague Sierra is putting some hyperlinks in the chat box for scheduling free consultations and checking out the resources on our website. Right, so let's go ahead and dive in. Oops. So first, I'll give a brief overview of the services we provide at our company, Statistics Solutions. Then we'll look at how to set up ANOVAs and how to run them in SPSS. I'll give a demonstration in SPSS, and then we'll conclude with a question and answer session and a summary. All right, on this slide, you can see all the various parts of the dissertation journey that we assist with. Our company has methodologists, both quantitative and qualitative, and we have literature review specialists. So no matter where you are in the process, we can provide assistance if you're at the very beginning trying to develop your topic and pinpoint a gap in the literature, framing your research questions and hypotheses, we can provide assistance there. Or if you're more in the middle, if you're in the proposal chapters, your intro, your lit review, or your methodology, we can provide assistance there. If you need help pinpointing what research design do you need to use, how should I frame my research questions, what is the minimum sample size I need to target for quantitative or qualitative research? And then figuring out what is the best statistical plan to address the research questions, we can help you there. We also assist with IRB forms. We can provide data entry templates to you if you're not sure how the data ideally needs to be organized. We can host a survey for you on SurveyMonkey. We have our own company account there. And then getting to the final couple chapters, if you just send us your data set and your research questions, we can provide an APA write-up of your findings. And then connecting the findings back to the previous literature, discussing limitations and recommendations for future research. Usually that goes in the discussion chapter. And then we can help you with PowerPoints for proposal and final defenses. And we can help condense your dissertation into a journal submission. So if you have any questions about the services we provide, you can give us a call at 727-442-4290, or you can use the free schedule links that Sierra put in the chat box. All right, so we are looking at ANOVAs today. If you've joined us before, if you've joined us recently, I have discussed how to check for the assumption of normality. There's many ways to check for normality, and because we're looking at ANOVAs today, an ANOVA is considered a parametric analysis in which you often should check for things like normality and homogeneity of variance. So you'll want to check with your committee to see what method they want you to verify normality with. You can use tests of significance like a Shapiro-Wilk test or a Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. These will provide you with a p-value that tells you, does the data meet normality or not? You can look at skewness and kurtosis statistics, and you can look at scatter plots and histograms. So there are so many methods to check for normality. You'll want to see what preference your committee has and what method to use. If normality is not supported, there are many things you can do. You can consider transforming your data. You can shift to non-parametric techniques. We'll discuss some options for that. And if you have a very large sample size, then you can use the central limit theorem to justify proceeding, even if there are violations of normality. I've gone through checks of normality in previous webinars, so you can check those recordings out on our website. Okay. So first, let's define what an ANOVA is. An ANOVA stands for an analysis of variance. So there are some prerequisites for the data. You need to have a continuous dependent variable. and you need to be comparing two or more independent. Okay, so when we say continuous dependent variable, that's usually a variable that is numeric, a variable that falls on a continuum. It's often called interval or ratio or scale. So you need to have a distinct dependent variable that is continuous. And then you need to have an independent grouping variable that consists of at least two groups. Okay, so something like if you're comparing classrooms, you have class A, B, and C. Perhaps ethnicity is what you're interested in comparing. So having multiple ethnic groups that you can compare. If you only have two groups, you might as well just run independent t-tests or dependent t-tests. The math still works in which you could run an ANOVA between males and females, for example, if you're comparing genders. But it's kind of overcomplicating a simple design. You might as well just run a t-test if you're comparing two groups. Okay, so I have a sample spreadsheet here of test scores in multiple classrooms. So you can see we have an SPSS here, we have 150 students, and we have the gender of each participant. We have 3 classrooms, classroom A, classroom B, classroom C. Then we have math scores, we have science scores, and then we have reading pre, reading post, and reading follow-up. Okay, so math and science were just collected at the end of the year. Reading was collected 3 times, but once in the fall, once in the spring, and then once in the summer. Okay, so say we're looking at comparing classes. This is where you can run an ANOVA because we have 3 different classrooms. We have class A, B, and C. And let's say we're looking at math scores. Okay, is there a difference in math based on classroom? To set this up in SPSS, you would go to Analyze, General Linear Model, and Univariate. The variable of interest, what you're trying to see differences in, that will be your dependent variable, so math scores. And then we'll put classroom into this box here, fixed factor. So are there differences in math based on class? And then there are several options you can select. We'll go to options right here. And typically I will check mark descriptive statistics, estimates of effect size, and homogeneity tests. Then you want to go to post hoc right here. And the reason for this, you want to do a post hoc test because you want to figure out, say we do find a significant result, what classrooms were performing better than others. So that is the purpose of a post hoc test. It gives you a little more detail. And usually I see a Tukey or a Bonferroni adjustment is made here. I'm going to check mark Tukey. And then we can also generate a plot for this. So we'll do what's the best plot to do for this? Comparing classes. So you could do separate lines for each class like this, or you could put it on the x-axis like that. Continue, click OK. That's pretty much it. All right, so here we have the results of the ANOVA. And we have math scores. We can see what were the average math scores in each class. And this is something you would report in the ANOVA, or the descriptives of math by class. Then we look at the results of the ANOVA. Okay, so you want to look at this test of between subject effects box. You find your independent variable, which is class, and you go across this row. So this is the F value that you would report, 7.67. This is the P value that you would report. And this is oftentimes reported as well. It's partial eta squared. That's a measure of the effect size. So what we see is that we do have a significant result. The p-value here, which is identified with the significance, is below 0.05. Because that means that we do have significant differences in math based on class A, B, and C. However, that doesn't tell us what classes perform significantly better than the others. That's when we need to look at post hoc comparisons right here. And this is what are called pairwise comparisons. It's going to compare every class to the other two classes. Okay, so we have class A versus class B, and then we have class A versus class C. So there should be three combinations. We need class A to B, we need A to C, and then we need class B to C. There's a lot of extra information here that is just going to repeat. Okay, so you'll see class A to B is significant. So what does that mean? So that means that class A scored significantly higher than class B. And then we have the class A to class C comparison. This was not a significant difference. The p-value is not greater than it's not below 0.05. It's greater than 0.05. Then going to the next row, class B to class A, we have already looked at that comparison. It's just opposite effect. You can see that the first comparison showed a positive mean difference, 3.91, whereas class B to class A is the same thing. It's just the opposite, negative 3.91. Then we have class B versus class C, and this was a significant difference. So class B scored significantly lower than class C. Class B 81.10, class C 87.32. Okay, so what did we see altogether? That we do have a significant main effect is what it's called, a main effect of class. The post hoc comparisons showed us that A and B were significantly different and B and C were significantly different. However, class A to class C did not demonstrate a significant difference. Okay, and then you scroll down here and you can get a visual of how each class scored. Okay, and instead of doing a line chart, you could do a bar chart instead here. And I think that's probably a better visual aid like this. Okay, so class A, B, and C. So that is what's called a one-way ANOVA. Now, the alternative that you could run is called a repeated measures ANOVA. So this is used when you're running pre-test and post-test comparisons. Okay, so you need to have, again, a continuous variable that is measured between 2 points in time, at least 2 points in time. Okay, similar to what I was saying before, if you only have 2 points in time, you might as well just run a paired t-test. Like if you were going to do a gender comparison for males and females, just run an independent t-test. If you have 2 points in time, then just do a paired t-test. I think repeated measures ANOVAs are best if you have 3 or more points in time. All right, so how do we set this up? You need to have one matched dependent variable that is measured at least twice. So like a pre-test, a post-test, and a follow-up. You can check the assumptions of the analyses at this link here. All right, so to run a repeated measures ANOVA, this is a perfect example of looking at changes in reading because each student had 3 reading measurements in the fall, in the spring, and in the summer. To set this up, we'll go to Analyze, General Linear Model, and then Repeated Measures. All right, and then there's a couple extra steps you have to do for this. So first, you need to give your comparison over time a name. Usually, I just call this time. Time meaning fall, spring, and summer. And then we have 3 levels, fall, spring, and summer. You click Add. define, and then this window pops up, and we're going to put in reading pre, reading post, reading follow-up into this box. And we'll do a lot of the same options. We'll go to options, descriptive statistics, effect size, homogeneity tests. And then we can go to estimated marginal means for this one. We'll select these two options, move it to the right box, click compare main effects. So this is going to do like the post hoc comparisons we looked at earlier. So is the fall different than the spring? Is the fall different than the summer? And is the spring different than the summer? It does all those different comparisons. Again, we can generate plots for this. And then we'll click OK. Okay, so what you want to look for are first the descriptive statistics. Okay, so we have reading pre, reading post, reading follow-up. What are the mean scores? Notice that we have 150 students for all three. Then you want to look at this test of within subjects table right here. And you go across this row, sphericity assumed, and we do not have a significant difference. You would report this F value, this P value, this effect size, and the P value is greater than 0.05. Therefore, we don't have evidence of collective differences in reading scores between the fall, the spring, and the summer. Okay, sometimes that doesn't tell the whole picture. That's why we do those pairwise comparisons. And what we can see here is that we have time 1 versus time 2, time 1 versus time 3, very much like the classes that we looked at earlier. So this is time 1 is the fall, time 2 is the spring, time 3 is the summer. So if we do time 1 versus time 2, fall versus spring, we do see a significant difference here. And what that's telling us is that the fall reading scores were significantly lower than the reading in the spring. However, time 1 versus time 3 did not demonstrate significant differences. The p-value is greater than 0.05. So time 1, which was the fall, was not significantly different than time 3, which was the summer. And we can see that they're very similar, almost in the same ballpark. And then the third comparison would be time 2 versus time 3. That would be the spring versus the summer. And this also did not show a significant difference. Okay, so that's comparing the spring, 85.90, to the summer, 84.89. So not a significant difference there. And just looking at the bar plot, the scores are very similar across all time points. Okay, so almost every parametric analysis has a non-parametric alternative. So say you're checking for assumptions, and those assumptions are not supported, like normality or sphericity or homogeneity of variance. So if you propose to run a one-way ANOVA and the assumptions are not supported, then you can run a Kruskal-Wallis test as a non-parametric backup. So non-parametric tests don't have strict assumptions. Normality, you don't have to have a bell-shaped curve to run these analyses. Okay, and if you propose to run a repeated measures ANOVA, where you have a pre, post, and a follow-up comparison, and the assumptions are not supported, the non-parametric alternative would be a Friedman ANOVA. Okay, and I can show you how to run those. So you'll go to, for the first one, a Kruskal-Wallis test, you go to Analyze, then you go to Non-Parametric Tests, then you go to Legacy Dialogues, and then we're going to select K independent samples. K just means we have a certain number of groups, In this case, we have three, class A, class B, class C. And then you just put in your dependent variable up here, and you would put in class into the grouping variable. It's not set up in SPSS right now. You need to have a numeric version just to run it. So you would need to add a variable here. You can't put class into here, but you have to convert it to strictly numbers like this. So class A could be a 1, class B could be a 2, class C could be a 3. And then you can define these categories in variable view. So I'll just call it class code. And let's add 3 rows. So 1 was A, 2 was B, 3 was C. And now you can see class has appeared here. So I can put class down here and math scores up here. And then click OK. Just make sure Kruskal-Wallis is selected here. And then this is going to use mean ranks as opposed to means. And we do have a significant difference in reading, or I'm sorry, in math based on class A, B, and C. And for Friedman ANOVA, you go to the same menu, non-parametric tests. This is if you're doing a pre, post, and follow-up comparison. And we'll do K-related samples. Okay, so we have, again, the K just means how many time points are you comparing, in this case, 3. So you just put reading pre, post, and follow-up. Make sure that Friedman is selected at the bottom here, and then click OK. And this is going to use mean ranks, and it appears that we do have significant differences using mean ranks opposed to using means. Okay, but you only run those if assumptions like normality are not supported. Okay, so in general, you first need to pinpoint your research questions and your hypotheses. Know, are you comparing groups? Are you comparing over time? Are you perhaps doing a true experimental study where you're doing both? You have time differences and group differences. And then you can run your analysis in SPSS. You can even check out our company software, Intellectus, which will generate an APA write-up for you. It will analyze the data and present the findings in an APA write-up. So if we have any questions, you can type them into the chat box. And we'll send everyone a copy of the PowerPoint and the webinar. Okay, looks like we have a question from Kenneth. Can you run an ANOVA on pre-test and post-test? You can. Like I was saying earlier, I think you could just do a paired t-test. You just have pre and post. I think running an ANOVA is kind of redundant and overcomplicating it. So for example, here we have, say I was just looking at reading in the spring and the fall. So reading pre and post and just disregarding the follow-up. You could do a paired t-test there. So you go to analyze, and then you go to compare means, and then paired sample t-test right here. Reading pre and post, and that's it. Okay, so if you only have 2 points in time, I would just do a t-test. You don't need to run an ANOVA. Okay, we have a question from Verena. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Okay, so what is a MANOVA and how does that compare to an ANOVA? So a MANOVA is used when you have multiple dependent variables and you're looking at multiple dependent variables at once. So for example, instead of just looking at math scores in one test, say we wanted to look at math and science simultaneously, and is there a difference based on class? So you can go to Analyze, General Linear Model, and instead of univariate, which is what we did before, just looking at math, if you do multivariate, That allows you to put in multiple dependent variables in at once, like this. So this is a multivariate analysis of variance. We have multiple dependent factors. And then you can put class down here, set it up very much the same way. Okay, so what this will give you is first a multivariate check. And here at the very top, you can see the descriptive statistics for math and science. It's not just math anymore. We have both math and science by the 3 classrooms. This is usually the first table that you interpret. So collectively, do we have a difference in math and science by class? That's what this class effect is telling you right here. And it is a significant result. That means that math and science together do appear to vary by classroom. Then you scroll down to the box we looked at before, test of between subject effects, and you'll see class, which is our independent variable of interest. And there's a separate row for both math and science. So math was significant. So we do have significant differences in math by class. And likewise with science, we do have significant differences in science based on class. So this is kind of a more, if you have multiple factors that you want to compare, then this is kind of the most efficient way to do it. Instead of running 10 different ANOVAs, you can just run a ANOVA. Okay, we have a question from Innocent. Can I report an ANOVA and repeated measures ANOVA on the same variable where other clients had pre-tests of PHQ-9, post follow-up, while others had pre and post only? I think you might have to do separate analyses here. So if some participants did pre, post, and follow-up, then do a repeated measures ANOVA only in that group. Okay, so one, let's say do one repeated measures ANOVA for those who completed all 3 tests, pre, post, follow-up, and then do a separate ANOVA, or you could just do a pair t-test potentially, but maybe for consistency, it'll be good to do an ANOVA here. So one repeated measures ANOVA for those who only did pre-test and post. Okay. The reason for this, I wouldn't do it all in one test because SPSS and other softwares are automatically going to eliminate cases if they didn't do all 3 time points. So I would do them separately. Okay, we have a question from Hanzong. How to interpret the interaction effect of 2 variables from a line chart. I do not typically interpret those. I'm assuming you're talking about moderation potentially, in which case I only look at the interaction effect. Okay, I don't look at the plots necessarily or the line plots. I would just look at the significance of the interaction effect. Okay, do we have any other questions? Any additional questions? Thanks for joining, Yezi. If you're not running ANOVAs right now, then maybe not the ideal webinar for you, but we've done a lot of webinars recently. So if you check out our company website here, statisticsolutions.com, and you go to webinars, and then you go to webinar archive, you can see we've done many different topics, some on specific chapters, some more general, just general tips to get through the dissertation journey. So you can check out this webinar archive link. I will put this in the chat box. Okay, any final questions? And then on this webpage, you can also see what webinars are coming up. So we do have 5 different webinars that you can schedule right now in December. Hey, Verena. Yes, we can assist with ANOVAs. If you send us your data set and your research questions, what you're trying to prove, we can provide assistance with ANOVA and SPSS. And yes, Sue Kyung, we will be sending the recording for the webinar and the PowerPoint. We may be able to outsource if you need to use R. I'm sure we can find someone that can assist you there with R. We primarily use SPSS at our company. Pricing differs on what project it is. If it's a chapter you need help with, or if you need help with data analysis, it fluctuates. So my best advice would be scheduling a consultation with our team, in which you can use the links at the top here. I will move this down here. So if you schedule a meeting, you can discuss with Janine or Brittany, and they'll guide you towards the best service that we can provide. I have the membership. Is a consultation included? I'm not sure what membership you're referring to, Verena. But yes, the consultation is completely free to figure out where you need assistance. Yeah, I would just schedule a meeting. Use the link I just provided in the chat box, and they'll provide the best assistance for you. They'll guide you in the right direction. Okay, well, thanks for joining, everyone. We'll send everyone a copy of the webinar and the PowerPoint, and come join us for future webinars. Let us know if you have any questions. Thank you. Take care.